Welcome to the BSIS Advisory Committee meeting on Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. Hopefully we have enough for a quorum here. Good morning. Okay, so 10 a.m. time to get started. We are hoping, I am Lynn Andres. I am the BSIS chief, and we are hoping to conduct this meeting, this WebEx meeting, with our cameras turned on for the first time. Fingers crossed, this will work out seamlessly and no one will have any issues at all, including me. Last time my audio was cutting in and out, so feel free to let me know if I start getting staticky again. The first order of business is to call this meeting to order. So this meeting is called to order. We will be meeting from 10 a.m. until completion of all agenda items. And our first agenda item is our roll call. Our policy manager, Antoine Hodge, will be calling our roll this morning.
All right, this is the roll call for the BSIS Advisory Committee meeting for July 22nd, 2021. Brian Boglin.
Present.
Brian Boglin. Mark, did you say something? I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
No, I didn't say anything.
Phil Sachere.
Present.
Present. Anton Farmby.
Here.
Nancy Murray.
Move to accept the minutes of February 26, 2021. Huntington.
Thank you, Frank. You read my mind. That was just what I was about to call for. A motion and a second to approve the minutes. Does anybody second Frank's motion?
I'll second. Brian Boglin.
Thank you. Antoine, do you mind doing the roll call again, please?
Sure, this motion is to accept the meeting minutes. Brian Boglin.
Aye.
Brian Boglin, aye. Phil Sachere.
Aye.
Phil Sachere, aye. Anton Farmby. I think he just joined. Maybe. Frank Huntington.
Aye.
Mark Miller.
Aye.
Mark Miller, aye. Nancy Murish.
Aye.
Eli Owen.
Aye.
Eli Owen, aye. Stanton Perez.
Aye.
Chris Sayers. And Glenn Younger. Is he here? No. All right, the motion passes.
Thank you, Antoine. Okay, moving on is to our next agenda item, item number 4, which is the update from the Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office. We are lucky to have Carrie Holmes from DCA's Board and Bureau Relations Office here today to give the update. Let's see, moderator, is Carrie here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thanks, Carrie. You want to kick it off?
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, Bureau Chief and Advisory Committee members. I am Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for inviting me to provide a department update. A little bit about me by the way of introduction. I was appointed in June of 2020 by Governor Newsom, and before that I worked for the Senate. Board and Bureau Relations is a point of contact for all boards and bureaus, so we attend meetings, we assist with appointments, and facilitate communication between the Director's Office, Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, and the Governor's Office. If there's ever anything you need, you could always reach out to me. It has been a pleasure working with the Advisory Committee members on your appointments and reappointments. Recently, Director Kirkmeyer reappointed 7 members of the Advisory Committee for an additional 2-year term. Nancy Murish, Brian Boglin, Stan Perez, Anton Farmby, Frank Huntington, Eli Owen, and Chris Sayers. Congratulations on your reappointments, and thank you for your willingness to serve. DCA truly appreciates your years of service. And to all the other members, as your terms near their end, we will be speaking about reappointment as well. Reach out if you have any questions. Now, this may be new information for committee members, but all DCA staff, appointees, and volunteers are required to complete a sexual harassment prevention training. It's required upon appointment and reappointment, as well as mandated for everyone on odd years. So that means unless you have already completed the training within 2021, you do need to do it this year. The training is online and self-paced, and it can be completed through DCA's learning management system. I'll make sure that Bureau Chief Andrus has the information so that you can log in and get it done. You are all entered into the system, so it's just a pretty simple login, and then you just work your way through it. COVID-19 has affected every aspect of our work for more than a year, as we all know. And California reached a major milestone June 15th, and the economy is officially back open. DCA wants to thank Bureau Chief Andrus and staff who have been working so hard to maintain excellent customer service throughout these challenging times. We have received a lot of positive feedback. And Bureau staff, like all state employees, made a sacrifice to assist California when they continued to serve through the pandemic under a 10% pay cut, some also foregoing cost of living increases and expected raises. As the economy comes roaring back, we're happy to see that these cuts have been reversed. DCA is working with all the boards and bureaus to manage any budgetary impacts. We know things are moving quickly and there's a lot of information, both official and unofficial. On June 17th, Governor Newsom signed an executive order expediting Cal OSHA's revised COVID-19 regulations to ensure consistency with public health guidance. The revisions align with the latest face covering guidance from the California Department of Public Health and eliminate physical distancing requirements except for certain employees during outbreaks. And of course, now by region, there may be reinstatement of mask mandates. So folks should just keep an eye on their regional rules as well. Boards and bureaus are ongoing assessing operational needs to identify potential for permanent changes to the workplace to ensure efficiency and employee well-being, such as telework and hybrid workplace models. DCA is also receiving many questions about when and how boards and bureaus can meet again in person. The remote meetings are tied to the governor's executive orders and the state of emergency. The executive order that allows remote meetings is set to expire September 30th, at which time boards and committees will be required to follow all aspects of the Open Meetings Act, unless a change in law happens. I think we do all recognize the value of the cost savings and increased public participation associated with the remote meetings. However, I know many of you are eager to meet in person, as I am, and DCA can assist with in-person or hybrid options for your next meeting. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help. If there's anything we can do to assist, please reach out. This concludes my part, and I will hand it back over to Bureau Chief Andrus.
Thanks, Carrie. All right, well, what I would like to do, if you have another couple of minutes, Carrie, is to open it up for any questions or comments from our advisory committee members.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Anton Farnby. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for joining us, Gary. Good to see you. Good to see everyone. Do you has the governor's office or anyone in a health field kind of anticipate what to expect? From at least from a health perspective on what we should be preparing for with this new variant that's coming on. I mean, I know that we've seen like the numbers kind of double of the last few days, but in any anticipation that you can that's been discussed that you can share with us here?
Well, I think nothing has changed yet, except for, as I mentioned, at a regional level. I think throughout this whole pandemic, the governor's office has responded to the data and to science and made the best decisions to protect public health and safety while also helping to reopen the economy. So I think we can expect consistency in those goals. But at this point, I know as much as you do, so we just need to keep our eyes on everything and be nimble.
Okay, do we have any other questions from any other advisory committee members?
Yeah, Chief, I have one question. Carrie, there's some legislation going through right now and specific to the BSIS when it comes to advertisement requirement for licensing numbers and allowing a URL to be in place of the actual license numbers. That way you have a landing page for consumers to go and get all the applicable information for licensing. I know this is kind of piecemealed across the individual boards. Is there any talk at the higher level DCA level to do that universally across the different boards DCA covers?
The digital licensing options?
Well, there's that. That's another thing that we're working on, but also more importantly, instead of the requirement to always display the individual license numbers on, say, vehicles and marketing collateral, there would be an allowance to just put a URL, which would have a landing page for all that information.
There's
And
definitely.
Carrie, sorry, I'm just going to jump in real quick.
Sure.
Brian is referring specifically to AB 484 by Assemblymember Medina, which allows the listing of a link to a website rather than all the information that historically they've been required to provide on advertisements.
Got it. And, I'm not super familiar with that piece of legislation, I have to admit, but I will say across DCA, there's a lot of discussion about how things can be done more electronically. They're talking about QR codes, they're talking about blockchain, we're talking about all of that for licensing and other information because some of the benefits are the real-time updates and as with everything, the main eye is on the security and accuracy of the information. So those conversations are happening, but there's not, I don't have a specific initiative to share with you now that would be like the legislation.
Does the DCA have a legislative point of contact at your level that would
Yes.
oversee all legislation that would basically impact all boards underneath the DCA?
Yes, we do have a deputy of legislation, that's Jennifer Simoes, and I can shoot you to an email by way of introduction if you'd like.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, thank you, Carrie. And at this point, I will open it up, this agenda item for any public members that have any questions of Carrie at this time.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please follow the instructions currently being displayed on your screen by clicking the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and typing, "I would like to make a comment." All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was somebody else speaking there?
I was just saying thank you, and thanks to all the committee members.
Thanks, Carrie. Carrie's awesome. She's very responsive, and I'm sure half of you, if not more, have already spoken to her just in the last 2 weeks. So feel free to reach out to her directly, to me, and we will be happy to answer any questions. Okay, thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5. This is the Chief's welcome and Bureau update. I first want to extend a warm welcome to all of our committee members and a big thank you to all of you as well. Even though we meet just 3 times a year, I understand and appreciate the time you all put into this commitment. It's unpaid, so I even more appreciate the time commitment that you guys have thoughtfully provided and the feedback. and all the energy that you guys bring and expertise is really invaluable. Advisory committee members throughout the year will ping me here and there and email me about concerns and questions, and we are always happy to return your emails quickly and with as much accuracy and knowledge as possible at the time. So I really appreciate the interactions that I have with all of you. We have a really great advisory committee. And we, as Carrie just mentioned, we had a number of our members expire or soon to be expired. We had 7 just in the last several months. And so we reappointed all of you. So thank you again for re-upping for this. I think we're in great shape now for the next 2 years, fingers crossed. However, we are still short 2 members. We're short our public member and we're short a member from the repossessor community. So if anybody knows of someone who might be interested and bring, a unique perspective or valuable background information or knowledge to these positions, please let me know and we will reach out to them and start the process. So moving on. It has been a really busy few months since the last time we met, mainly in the legislative world. I'm actually really excited about the bills that are moving through the legislature, and we'll cover those in details shortly under another agenda item. Just in general, we have a firearms requalification waiver up on our website. If you search our website for waiver using that keyword, you can find the details on it and whether or not you or your licensees will qualify. It's a very narrow exemption, and it is basically, it's a short window of time for those licensees whose expiration date falls between, I think it's March and July, March 2020 through July 31st, 2021. And again, it's really narrow, so make sure you read through it. If you have any questions on that, let me know, and we will see, what we can do if your licensee or your constituent might be able to qualify for that. But again, it's a pretty narrow exemption, and that was what we were able to, get through and get the governor's approval on a waiver for. So moving on. Telework looks very likely to stay for at least the near future, and BSIS, we are a very enthusiastic utilizer of telework. Our staff enjoys the flexibility, we enjoy the flexibility, we enjoy this as an added sort of benefit for our staff. And as always, we continue to work diligently, and our processing times really show this effort. At this point, our online application processing times are right up against the California Department of Justice's turnaround time for their fingerprint processing. Meaning we are licensing people just as soon as DOJ clears the fingerprints. Unfortunately, right now, DOJ has about a 2 to 3 week delay. So you live scan, and it takes, in some cases it will approve overnight, and we are in good shape there. But some cases it can take several weeks for DOJ to clear your fingerprints. But as always, I strongly encourage everyone to apply and renew online. It is so much faster and easier, and it really prevents a lot of errors that we see in paper apps, because the online processing, the online program, our Breeze program, will ping you if they see an error in there. Not all, but Breeze is pretty good at catching a lot of it. And if you were at our last meeting, I went through our website and pointed out various features and tutorials. And at this point, I want to throw this question out to our committee members. Have any of you heard anything from your stakeholders about our website? It's been up and running in its current form for probably about a year now. We're pretty proud of it. We put a lot of thought and effort into it, and that was Antoine Hodges' team. So if anybody has heard anything positive, negative, indifferent, chime in, let me know what you've heard. We're always looking for feedback and ways to improve. Anton, it looks like you unmuted yourself.
Yes. Good morning, Chief. Good morning, everyone. Again, yes, I just wanted to make a comment on your last piece regarding the website. As most of you all know, we represent security officers in the state of California, and obviously my folks are required to go through the process regarding the guard card, and a lot of our folks kind of routinely like go on to the BSIS website, and you guys are getting glowing numbers from my side of the fence. Folks are really looking at the website, and they're saying that it's more user friendly, easier to navigate. It's easier on the eyes, whatever that means. And so we've been getting some really, really good feedback. I bring my folks together every month. We talk about different aspects of what's happening in the industry. Obviously, we've been doing that through Zoom. We're just now starting to get back into doing in person. We're going to be opening up our offices in August. But through our conversations, BSIS and licensing and guard cards are a part of those conversations. And over the last several months, they've been giving some positive feedback on the new revamped website.
I am very glad to hear that. That is nice to hear. And I know that our licensing team has also worked really tirelessly, especially in the face of all the challenges that the last year and a half has thrown at us, to get to the point where we are, right up against where DOJ is releasing fingerprint data. So we're pretty excited about that. And again, for everybody, in case you didn't know, right on the front page of our website, bsis.ca.gov, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a link called Processing Times. And those list the processing times online and paper apps for pretty much all of our different types of applications. So that's always really helpful if you have somebody who, one of your licensees or constituents who has a delay or is wondering what's going on with their license. Check the processing times first, because they might still be in that window. If they're outside of that window, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm always happy to get information and get updates to you guys on what's happening on your licensees, because I know it can be hard sometimes to get through. And what I brought up last time, and I'm going to bring up again, is there are phone numbers on our website. I would encourage you, instead of using the phone numbers or instead of recommending to your folks to use the phone numbers, to email us. And that would be to use the Contact Us drop-down function on our webpage. That's right along the top. It's along the ticker bar at the top. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but I'm going to call it a ticker bar. It says Contact Us, and then it has a drop-down, and it has different categories. And as I mentioned before, that goes straight to the subject matter experts on that particular licensing type. And you should get an answer you can take to the bank, sometimes within 24 hours, but because we have such a high volume, sometimes it might take closer to 2 to 3 business days, occasionally even longer if it's a more complex license type, such as your private patrol operator or PI. There's a lot of manual work that goes into those license types, but we do try and answer our emails on a fairly rapid basis. So always email, try not to call, because it goes to the call center staff, and they are more a general DCA call center staff. They're not BSIS staff. Okay.
Hi, Lynn.
So, yes.
I have a follow-up question on that. So when applicants, when they're not getting cleared, at what point in the process do you recommend they can use that email feature on the BSIS website to get an update or inquire? What is the time frame?
What we normally recommend is, if they're outside the processing times, like, I'm going to just spitball and I'm going to say, if you pull up and you applied for a guard card June 1st, and you look on our website under the processing times and it says we're working on June 5th or June 15th, if you're outside of that window, that's when, hey, let me go ahead and email them, because that means that there's some holdup somewhere. Maybe there's a mix-up in the social security number, 1 digit's off, or maybe there's a misspelling in the name that prevents the application from automatically joining with the approved fingerprints from DOJ. We have this really slick automated system that usually links them up automatically, but there could be something wrong on either the fingerprint end or the application end that prevents it. So we appreciate getting a ding And that way we can go ahead and look it up and resolve it quickly. So if you're outside the processing time, go ahead and feel free to email us.
Nice, thank you.
Yep. Does anybody else have any questions at this point?
Chief, sorry. Chief, I had a quick question. First of all, I think the website redesign looks amazing. I went through the drop down. It's awesome as far as direction. I do still get a lot of questions as far as scope of work that's allowed specifically under the Bureau's jurisdiction. So that's kind of always something that I'd like to see as far as, you know, what the Bureau is responsible for and what is not within the different industries that the BSIS covers. Other than that, the only other thing I was going to bring up to you was in regards to Breeze, because I spend more time on Breeze than I actually do on the website. There is right now a challenge where it doesn't seem that there's the ability for a company to change any of their address information through Breeze. And so the challenge that I'm seeing is that especially when it comes to mailing address, obviously physical address is very different. I mean, if you're moving location, then you know there's a whole process for that. But when it comes to changing your mailing address, or for my example specifically, the street name that our mailing address changed. So because of that, you know, we have 50 some odd ACBs now that need to be updated, and we were trying to do that through Breeze. We can't. So I'm assuming that we could reach out directly to the alarm company contact, the ACO contact, and do that directly as a batch, hopefully. So just some feedback and maybe a question peppered in there as far as is that the right way that you want to see us doing that?
So I'm going to speak in generalities, and then I'm going to kick it over to our licensing folks because they know more about it. I know some of our address changes for certain license types can't be, it has to be a certain format. So that might be what's going on here, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, you can feel free to email our alarm company desk anytime with questions like this. But Gloriella or Antoine, I know you guys are huddled in the same room together on this one. Do either one of you have any additional insight on Brian's issue?
Hi, everyone. It's Gloriella and Antoine. Interesting you mentioned that, Brian, because I was just talking to my licensing folks about, because I understand with company, we need it in writing because it was a nightmare for updating addresses, I understand. So like the principals weren't aware that addresses were being changed. Some officers were not aware. So I'm actually, it's in my plate to kind of look into and see how we can kind of streamline that and make it easier for folks.
Yeah, I think part of the problem, Brian, is that in the past we've had issues with folks, so to speak, hijacking a license by changing the address, meaning one of the principals would just, you know, go ahead and change the address for the entire company, and suddenly everything is going to one principal but not the other, and the other principal suddenly falls off the picture. And so we're trying to keep the same level of oversight while streamlining the process for you all. So it's not very easy to change, unfortunately, but licensing is looking into it to figure out the best way. But I think for now, until we figure out a better way, it would be the best way to do it is to contact the alarm company desk and say, here's the list of all of my ACBs, or even just if you give them the main license number for the company and just tell them in the email that you would like to also change the physical address for all of the branches under that company, they can do that. You don't even have to list the branches. Just give them the main company license number and tell them that you would like to do the same thing for all the branches under the company license number. And that should be good for now. But we'll definitely work to fix.
Yeah, I assume that you would prefer that than us submitting like 58 change of address request forms through the email.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Phil, I noticed that you are off mute. Does that mean you have a question or?
Yes, I do. I was checking on Breeze and I got my renewal notice for a guard card, and I went on Breeze and it's not, my guard card's not listed in there. How do you go about that?
That's a good question. I am also once again going to defer to our licensing Deputy Chief Gloriella.
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
so we have a tutorial on how to link your licenses on our website. So Anton's going to help to see if we can kind of show you guys or walk you through that.
All right. At least I should be able to send you the link to that tutorial, and we can go from there. I'm pretty sure we have it up. Just a moment.
And just an overall note about Breeze, I say this at every advisory committee meeting, and I'm going to say it again. We love Breeze. There's a lot that it does really cool things, and there's a lot that can be improved upon. But again, we are our Breeze resources are limited because we fight for IT, our IT team's attention. Our IT team is the overall DCA IT team, and they service not just us, but the other 30 plus boards and bureaus. So we're all we're like a big barrel of puppies, all trying to like get the attention of IT to try and work on our issues. And so they've instituted sort of this not pecking order really, but just like, hey, you guys get 3 improvements every quarter. So yeah, so it can be a little time consuming to get improvements on Breeze, but we hear what you guys say, and you know, it's probably on our list of about 20 plus improvements that we've got planned.
Lynn, could you share with us like 1 or 2 of the improvements that you guys want on Breeze?
So funny you should ask, Mark. That is an agenda item that is coming up.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So we have so we do have a whole bunch of improvements that we have managed to push through, and we also have some on our list that we're planning on doing, and I believe Gloriella is going to cover that in the next agenda item, which is the licensing update. She's got a whole section on Breeze. So
Okay.
Yeah, after she's done. Hi, it's Gloriella. So Phil,
Yes.
the easiest, we're going to try to find it, but for the time being, the easiest way I can recommend is just to email the SIS box. It's bsis@dca.ca.gov. And we're 24 to 48 hours, and they can do a thorough diagnosis, if you will, to assist you.
Okay. Another question I have is I've been getting a lot of security guards and students saying that they've been checking their baton permits on, I guess, Breeze or online, and the numbers don't match their permit that they're carrying. Is there a problem with that? Other than I told the guys, I said, well, as long as you got your card, you're covered. But they're all looking at their permits online and finding out the permit numbers don't match. Is there an issue with that?
Gloriella, you want to take this one too?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of that, but if you can send me that information, we can look into it for sure.
Okay. All right, will do. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Do we have at this point, I don't see anybody else who is unmuted or has any questions. Advisory committee, any other members, one last chance to speak on this agenda item? Okay, I am going to throw it open for members of the public for questions or comments.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened up the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type, "I would like to make a comment." All commenters will be provided 4 minutes and given a 30-second warning. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
Thank you. All right, next agenda item is agenda item number 6, our licensing update. Gloriela Garcia is our Deputy Chief of Licensing, and she will be presenting this information today. Just as an aside for the advisory committee members and members of the public, this is the you can follow along on the handout portion or the long agenda form portion that we sent out earlier, and it is also on our website under materials for this committee hearing. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I want to go ahead and start off with letting you know that we have, effective June 23rd, new ID cards. You may or may not be able to see it as well, but we have our new logo, and it's backwards. It's durable plastic, and it just looks more professional. And on that handout, it will list the different license types that we have available for these new cards. These are the enhanced cards, so they would get them at PSI and pay a fee for them. But I understand a lot of people like these because they're not paper and they don't tend to, get washed in the laundry or what have you. So I wanted to point that out. I'll go ahead and briefly list the license types so you guys are aware. It's the alarm company qualified certificate, alarm company qualified manager, the alarm company employee, the locksmith employee, private investigator, repossessor agent, repossessor qualifying manager, and the security guard. So we're very excited about these, and I just wanted to share it with all of you. And also, we're happy to announce that we now have available on Breeze all of the Firearm Renewal deficiencies for the users to log into their account and be able to view an actual update other than just pending. And I'm going to walk you through it. If the moderator can show page 2, I believe. If not, I will see if I can show my screen.
This is the moderator. I am working on it for you. Give me 1 second.
Okay, sure.
It does not appear to be coming up at the moment. So if you'd like to start, I will continue working on it until I get it up.
Okay. I'm going to see if on my end I can show it.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. You got it, Brittany.
Yes, and just page number 2, please. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so the user will log in, and then it's kind of a small print, but I'll kind of read it where the arrow is. It says view application status. They're going to click. Oh, thank you. They're going to click on details box to view the firearm permit renewal application, and then a pop-up right below that image right here. It will list the various deficiencies. So applicants can be proactive whenever they want to see some of these deficiencies. So this is for firearm renewals, and we are hoping to release for the initials as well, firearm initials, and we hope to do this for the rest of the license types, but we wanted to slowly roll it out and see how it works, if you guys like it or not. So the handout is going to be provided, as Lynn said, so you'll be able to reference that. But I wanted to point that out. Okay. And with regards to applying online, we continue to ask you to please help us put the word out there for applying online. And just to kind of give you some statistics, for online initial applications, we were at 54% compared to 46% paper. So we're definitely showing more online participation. And for renewals, we're at 66% online versus 34% paper. However, the more we can apply online, just the faster the processing. And at this point, I wanted to open this up to all of you. If you are encouraging others to apply online, and if so, why or why not? And if there's any feedback that you've received that we should be mindful of and try to work out some kinks if need be.
Gloriella?
Yes.
Yeah, we always promote applying online and renewing online, and my my dream is that paper goes away for you guys. I don't know how to make that happen, but
Thank you so much. Yes, that's my dream as well.
the 54%.
Yes.
Is that all licenses you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because security guards, that license type is pretty good. I want to say off the top of my head, 80 to 90% participation online.
That's great.
Yes.
I have a couple other questions. The guard card, the license you showed us, the nicer license.
Yes.
Is that basically is that PVC or laminated?
Yes, it's durable.
Yeah, durable.
Durable plastic.
And how much is it?
What's the question?
How much is it? I thought I heard you say that for an extra cost.
Yes. So for security guards, it's $5 for all of the license types. For the most part, it's $5, except for PI, because due to legislation and all of that, it comes out to $4.
And this is wonderful news on the firearm renewal, the ability for applicants to go online and see what their deficiencies are. And the initial is coming. Do you have a timeline on the initial?
I already can.
Yeah, well, we have that available. It was released. Now it's just a matter of us training our staff and rolling it out. But it should be pretty soon. I would say by the end of the month would be a good target goal. But we will announce it via our email subscription and our social media accounts as well.
That is great news. Can you tell us what, just off the top of your head, what the number one deficiency would be on initial or renewal?
Yeah, for the most part, it's just not filling out all of the information. So like social security numbers are missed. And it's really crucial. Or I'm trying to think.
Address of record.
Address of
Yeah.
record. Yeah, so down the line, I'm thinking we probably are going to revisit maybe like a checklist of like, it might be easier, and I don't know what you guys think. Would it be easier if we come up with a checklist of like, okay, you must have these points that meet these criteria, fill it in order for your application to be processed faster?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It kind of like we did for the renewals, where we added a requalification table, suggested requalification table for firearm renewals on the bottom. That way, people don't necessarily have to think about it; they kind of have it there. We're trying to do that for all the required fields on the form. Even though it says required, it might be good to just have a checklist for them to make sure that all the required information is there, and they can check it off as they go along. So it would be probably under the instructions or something like that.
Yeah. It empowers the applicant now and will speed up the whole process. What do you see on the horizon, this being offered to other license types like security guard?
And I'm sorry, what specifically, Mark?
Well, okay, so a guard for firearm, you can go on Breeze and check deficiencies.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, we definitely will go by the volume. So yeah, security guards are high up in like our higher volume. So that's the strategy, to basically have more information to the highest volumes released first to the least, so that more people can be more proactive in checking their accounts, and instead of emailing and waiting for a response back from us.
So when do you think that could happen, like for guards?
Yeah, great question. So what we'll do is we'll release the firearm permit license type in totality. Then we'll have a lessons learned, and then we're going to plan it. It's in the initial stages. I can't really say a date now, but once I reconvene with my staff, get lessons learned, meet with the bureau chief, then we can kind of discuss a timeline. But know that we do have the rest of the license types in mind for future rollout.
I mean, that's a game changer.
Yeah, thank you. And additionally, we want to add notes to the section, like some common ones as far as missing social security number if it's pending. So yeah, slowly but surely, that's the vision.
Nice. That's a good vision.
Thank you.
So I can jump in too here, Mark. Every so often when things get a little crazy around here, I'll grab a stack of applications and I'll work and I'll process them. And as Gloria said, one of the most common ones is they don't put their social security number. And what I will do is I will call up the applicant and, just say, hey, I've got your application in front of me. I have your contact number. I'm reaching out to you. And more often than you would think, I get the comment back, well, that's none of your business. So like, while I appreciate that, and yes, I do think you need to be protective of your personal information. We actually do need the social, and that seems to be sort of a widespread deficiency. And I've had a number of people tell me that they're not going to give it to me until I explain that they can't get a license without it. So that's one. And then one of the other things that I see a lot on this, and Phil, I wanted to mention this to you as well, is when we have firearms, initial or renewal, a lot of times, and this doesn't come from your facility, but other facilities, if the instructor fills it out incorrectly, and that is not on the applicant, but it does happen, fairly often, if the instructor fills out the paperwork incorrectly and, the applicant doesn't catch it, That's an unfortunate situation that we have happen a lot. So we also encourage all the applicants, whatever paperwork you get that you submit to the Bureau, make sure that it goes through. We have a lot of incorrect dates on there, and it'll be like, oh, well, whoops. You know, that was, you know, I'll call up the instructor, and the instructor will be, oh, no, you know, that was a mistake. I was confused on the dates that day or whatever. You know, it doesn't matter if the incorrect date is on there. You know, unfortunately, that's a big error that we have to address too. So just FYI.
Yeah, so we need to review the paperwork. Do you think we'll see the day when instructors go on to Breeze and input the information?
I hope so. Honestly, I mean, I hope so, but you know, I mean, the thing is too, is that if this is for an individual's application, I mean, you know, Mark, having, you know, to do this on your end, you can't sit down with them and fill out their information for them. They have to do it themselves. But we hope that there might be some sort of, you know, intersection that we can do where instructors or the students can go online and fill out as much as possible. So yeah, I mean, all of the online stuff, that's a huge goal of ours. And we really want to get as many processes and procedures and app types online as possible. And we're just kind of slowly working our way through it.
Yeah, it's great.
Sorry, Gloria, I hijacked your presentation there.
I have a question on the ID card.
Yep, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, on that ID card, is that thing expired? Do you have to renew it so often, or is that a permanent thing that we can carry?
It's a permanent thing, and you can renew it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's built for durability rather than the, you know, the paper guard cards. So
it doesn't replace the actual permit itself. It's just an ID card that guys can carry.
I believe it will. Florida, are we putting? I can't remember where we are now with the expiration date, because we had at one point thought that we would be able to put the QR code, put a QR code on it so that you could scan it with a QR reader if you're a consumer, and it would take you right to the license holder's Breeze page, and you could check the expiration date on that. And I'm not sure where we're at with that, so we may have to get back to you on that, Phil.
Okay.
Lynn, this is.
So right now, it's not a requirement for people to have those cards.
I think, no, it's not a requirement. The PIs sort of kicked it off, and Frank, I hear you chiming in here. Do you have something?
Right, I think Gloriella was trying to speak, but my understanding is it originally was going to be a QR code, but now we are going to put expiration dates on it. And my understanding is the picture will be much like a driver's license, where you don't have to renew it every 2 years. It'll be good for several years. Gloriella, am I correct on that?
Yeah, I know the PIs didn't want the QR code on it, but we're not sure about our other license types just yet.
Lynn, I think Gloriella's trying to speak, but you're muted, Gloriella.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the PIs worked it into law to where it has the expiration, and it's a one card for them. You know, if you guys are interested, just throwing it out there, if you want to make it into law where it's just one card, take that into consideration.
Yeah, Gloriella, I know that me and Antoine have talked at length about these cards in the past. I got the first version, the first run through. I guess what I was trying to look up on my handy dandy is, the requirement that states that the licensee has to have their license on them at all times. I guess there's no definition that states what has to be present on that license. So whether or not the expiration has to be reflected as far as a valid license to display. So can you just kind of read us in and make us feel better that that's not going to be required on that? You guys are muted again. You're talking.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were just discussing something here real quick. So I believe from the Bureau's perspective, if one of the other license type, say alarm company or whatnot, goes to PSI, pays the $5 card, they will have to have the paper card on them because this one will have all that required information. It's going to have their first and last name, license number, and the expiration date, and their picture. And so, and then if a consumer wants to verify the status of that license, because if somebody got suspended or whatnot, we tell them that right on the front of the card, it says to check the license of the status, go to this website. And so the consumer can go and check whether or not you have any disciplinary action or if you're suspended or whatnot, or if you're still in current status. So that can replace the pocket card. What happened with the private investigators is that by law, they made it so that this is the only card that you get, so that right now the PIs are not getting the paper card anymore. They're only getting this one.
Okay,
So it's not in lieu. It's basically just if you want to have a more durable option. And I know Sam's not on the call, but I'm assuming that enforcement is going to accept either the paper. I'm talking about for the other, like the ACA or ACEs, either the paper or this, if they decide to get it, would be valid.
Yes.
okay, Gloriella, Anton. Okay, so on this card, it is available for an extra charge for security guards, right? I heard somebody say there is a photo on it.
Yes. Yeah, there's a photo.
Okay, so how do you get the photo?
Oh, PSI, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Through PSI, and we're working on updating our website with the details as to how you go about contacting PSI and taking the picture and what have you.
Okay, got it.
You visit any of the PSI centers throughout California, and you tell them, hey, this is my security guard number, and I'm here to take a picture, and I'd like a card.
Okay.
One last question on the cards, because I know this is something I bring up all the time. Is the BSIS still looking to partner with DMV, or is that dead in the water?
Not for now. Yeah, the DMV thing has been put on pause. It turned out to be a much bigger project than anticipated, and coronavirus did not treat us well the last year and a half. And so, yeah, so eventually maybe it's something that we will look into again, but not at the moment.
Yeah, the virus is actually where my question was coming from, because a lot of the PSI sites have actually shut down or were shut down. I mean, they opened back up, but during the initial surge. So obviously not having that requirement to go in physically to a center and take a picture, be able to export it through some other, and I know we've talked about this offline in the past. I just didn't know if that was still something the Bureau was looking at, or else, or if that was just, no, we're sticking with PSI going forward.
Okay. Okay, moderator, if I can please get your assistance on showing the, let me see.
Bottom of page 3.
Bottom of page 3, please. I'm going to move on to processing timeframes and performance measures. Thank you very much. Perfect. So licensing is meeting our fiscal year 2021, licensing is meeting 90% of its target goal. So I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but here we have the target, and these are the target days that we strive to meet for all of the license types. And this heading says complete. This is if we receive no deficiency. So this will show us the count, how many applications we receive, and how long it takes on average to process in days processing of applications. So I kind of want to show you that a little bit, and it's in our handout as well for later viewing if you so should choose to want to view it later. And now I'm going to go into the summary of some brief changes for you all. So in August of 2020, we submitted an enhancement to ensure that for firearms, there was a requirement for uploading of documents. We were getting a lot of deficiencies without the required documents. So we worked that enhancement to the point where the applicant wasn't able to complete applying until that attachment was provided. So it's just a deficiency we worked internally to try and lessen for firearm permits. November 2020, we opened up Breeze to allow the applicants to renew 120 days instead of 90 days. Due to that pandemic, we were just wanting to allow more time, if you will, for these applicants, especially the ones that would mail their applications. December 2020, due to AB 2759, the repossessor agency, we extended the license delinquency period to 10 years. Previously, it was 3 years. March through April 2020, we created another efficiency, which was postcards. There was the coupon little coupon slip. We did away with those for security guards, alarm company employees, and firearm permit renewals. And so now the only other option is to mail a renewal or renew online. And we're seeing more participation of online because of it. And I just kind of want to give you guys an example as to how good our renewal is. Last week, for instance, our turnaround time for renewing application online for employee applications, 4 days. 4 days. Fantastic. But paper, 44 days. So that's why we keep pushing, like, please help us help you. And for firearm permits, for instance, the renewal was online 18 days, paper 42 days. So just kind of wanted to share that with you guys.
Gloriella?
Yes.
Which license was 4 days?
All employee applications, so it would include the security guard license type.
Okay, so on the document that you just showed prior to this page on the screen, on processing times, I think it'd be compelling and interesting if you guys carved out paper versus online, because those statistics would drastically change, would they not?
Yes. Yeah.
And
I
it would
think
show
so.
everybody how much faster, online is. Do you know?
Yeah, and go ahead. Sorry.
Do you know what the average is for online, for example?
It really depends, unfortunately, of the ebbs and flows. But for the most part, within the last month, I should say, renewals have been, under 10 business days.
Because people are getting the wrong impression, because online guard cards can take 2 to 4 days to process, but yet they look on your site and it's taking 60 days or whatever. And so that, I don't know if that reflects really what's happening. Am I making sense?
You are. We currently have, a processing time web page on our Bureau website, and I think it could be revamped to make it a little, I guess, user-friendly. So if you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll try to, brainstorm a little bit how we can make it a little bit more, what's the word, intriguing for others to see clearly. Oh, wow, online is so much faster. I think right now maybe it's not reflecting that, even though we have the date. We could probably do better.
But Gloriella, isn't it an average? I mean, because we do carve out online versus paper processing times, but the way that we are required to report our processing times, it has to be an average. So, you've got, the outlier cases on online that can take, 2 months, which really drags down the averages. But really, if you have everything lined up, it's quick.
Yes.
L'Oreal, the alarm industry drives our success based purely off of lead times. I mean, we don't want to hear complaints from people if they're processing paper because there's long lead times. We're moving in a different direction, as the chief knows as well. But to solidify that. But to Mark's point, are you going to distribute some of these metrics so that way, like, we have a publication that we could put that out in that just kind of, to the chief's point, on average, show the disparity between online versus paper submission?
We can definitely work that in. Absolutely. And this is a good forum to, kind of elicit what will help you all as well, help us. So yeah, we can put something together for sure.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, let me take a look where I'm at. Okay, so I had a discussion point item here. Let's see. What are you hearing from your constituencies, if anything, about the BREEZE platform? So if you guys have any recommendations, suggestions, or complaints that you guys get, please let me know. Please let us know so we can be as proficient as possible.
Yeah, and you can solicit input from your professions and your stakeholders. It doesn't have to be, tell us now or forever hold your peace. This can be an ongoing thing. And some of you do reach out and say, hey, this is what we've noticed on BREEZE. And, we're always welcome. We always welcome input, no matter when and how we receive it. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, and so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One last thing. So, one of the biggest drivers for us is once an ACE has submitted their application, then they are provisionally licensed, and we've talked about that, about having a provisional number that they can put on the contracts to suffice for that requirement to have their ACE number on there. Is that, I believe that was in like a future build for BREEZE, right, Chief? Or is that currently available?
I'll have to defer to Antoine and Gloriella, and we may have to get back to you on that, just because we have such a long list of improvements that we are looking to implement. We may have to get back to you offline about that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so home stretch for me here. Licensing data for fiscal year 2021. It's up on the screen there. I just wanted to put some statistics out for all of you to look at. But essentially, apps received for fiscal year 2021 for all of the license types, 89,781. For approved apps, 75,584. Licenses renewed, 119,388. And current licensing population, 415,847. I did take a comparison to last fiscal year, due to the pandemic, just to kind of see where we were with numbers. For the most part, business is as usual. Everything was very similar. And then just lastly, outreach. The chief and the deputy chiefs, we are more than happy to do presentations at your industry meetings. And we've had some with the private investigator and the Alarm Association conferences and a security guard conference. So we encourage you all to reach out. That's all I got.
I have a question, Gloria. Are these numbers posted anywhere?
So it's in the handout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
And there's really a wealth of information on dca.ca.gov. If you search for annual reports, we are finalizing our 2021 annual report right now, and it should be up on the website in several weeks. And then, like, you go through that. Every time I go through it, I find out new things. It's really great. So we are finishing up our numbers, and we're going to send them over, and they're going to publish it at some point soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Nice.
All right, thanks, Gloriella. And what I am going to do now is, we had pretty good interaction on that agenda item with our advisory committee members, but are there any other advisory committee members that have questions for Gloriella or comments on this particular agenda item? Okay, I don't see anybody unmuting, so moderator, I'm going to go ahead and ask the public for questions or comments on agenda item number 6 at this time.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type, "I would like to make a comment." All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Your welcome feature has been closed.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7. This is our update from the Bureau's Enforcement Unit. Our Deputy Chief of Enforcement, Sam Stadolsky, is the presenter today for this. And moderator, if you could scroll down to the handout to enforcement update. There we go. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Sam.
Well, good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? All right. So I figure we'll start. We'll talk about our disciplinary review unit a little bit, specifically implementation of AB 2138. If everybody remembers, which I'm sure you all do, because we've brought it up numerous times, AB 2138 went into effect July 1st, 2020, and it changes our parameters in which we do our review of people's criminal histories. It also changes our ability to deny licenses for criminal convictions. When that law went into effect, it also required us to have regulations in place. So we had to fine-tune those, and a lot of what this past year has been kind of learning as we go, so to speak. One of the major issues is, the law references serious felonies as defined in the penal code. And the penal code, the way they list those serious felonies, it's not so cut and dry. It's, this crime coupled with this, that, or an extra intent over here. And so when we have that information, we're not necessarily getting all the details of the conviction on a rap sheet. They're just going to give you a code section, what they were convicted of. So what our staff has had to do is a lot of research this past year. Our review process is taking significantly longer than it used to. If we're going to deny a license, we kind of have to build that case to put a denial together, because we're having to go and double check and make sure that denying the license would still comply with the parameters of AB 2138. When this started, we anticipated at the beginning of the year that we were going to get more and more rap sheets. We thought those were going to go through the roof. More applicants with the criminal history would be applying. As it turns out, it stayed relatively the same, but what changed was the level of complexity in how we review those rap sheets. So we're constantly in a state of learning. We're updating our cheat sheet and our internal notes that we use for doing these reviews. We're constantly going through and updating them. We're set to have another training next week just to check in with all the analysts, make sure everybody's on the same page. And so far, it's been working. So if you look at the numbers for, last fiscal year to this fiscal year, we've been pretty consistent. We received around the same number of rap sheets, and we've denied roughly around the same number of applications that we did in the previous fiscal year. So while the workload doesn't seem to have increased, it's just gotten a little more complex on that end. I know one of the discussion points listed in the document talks about what implications AB 2138 and substantially related regulations and how we apply them. Having our regs in place gives us that foundation to really look at an applicant, and not just one conviction. We can look at their entire criminal history at that point. And sometimes staff, there'll be ones that are wobblers and say, I don't know, should we deny for this? Sometimes they'll bring them to me. Sometimes I take them to Lynn and say, what do you think? I mean, this person, they committed a crime 30 years ago. That's a serious felony, but they haven't done anything since then. It may not be something we want to deny for. And a lot of it is just trying to take more of a holistic approach in how we review these applications. Do anybody have any questions on how we are implementing AB 2138 or how we're doing that process?
Sam, are you going to dive in on substantially related?
I can do that. So I'm not sure if everybody has seen our regs, but we've updated section 602 and 602.1 of our regulations, specifically the substantial relationship criteria. So just to give you kind of the quick version, what we look at for substantially related is the nature and gravity of the offense, the number of years that have lapsed since the date of the offense, and then the nature and duties of the profession in which the applicant seeks licensure or for what they're licensed for. So, I mean, to put that broadly, for the most part, most of our licensees are going to be in the security type industry, right? So, I mean, those standards are going to apply. When your job description is to protect persons and property, a lot of things could be substantially related at that point. So, in looking at that, we look at the rehabilitation criteria, and that one's really where you kind of get that holistic approach to how we look at things. We're looking at, were they on probation? Were they on parole? Are they still on parole? Or are they still on probation? There's a lot of diversion programs out there where they will actually, be able to complete that sentence and, have it reduced to a misdemeanor or have it become an infraction. And so we're taking as much of a holistic approach to looking at those as we can. There are some instances where I don't get enough information from the rap sheet, so we'll order the court documents before we even deny it, just so we can look at what exactly is going on. Because we can't deny if somebody has a 1203.4 dismissal. However, there's other types of dismissals. We were just researching one the other day that none of us had heard of, but they brought in their court documents, and in looking at it, it was, bona fide dismissal. DOJ didn't report it as a dismissal, so it gets, a little complicated. So I think the moral of the story I would tell you is that it's definitely going to take longer for applicants who have a criminal history, because it's going to be, it's a little more time for us to do our review. Did that answer your question, Brad?
Yeah, Sam, when you guys do the backgrounds, do you have access to DOJ?
What do you mean by access to DOJ?
Well, for example, I can't, I as a private investigator, I cannot access DOJ, the criminal history reports. Law enforcement can. Do you, when you're doing the backgrounds for these permits, how do you check the background, in other words?
So as a subscriber to Corey, so that's your criminal offender record information, we're a subscriber agency. So what we're going to be sent is essentially the rap sheet. Now that rap sheet can be very detailed. It can be somewhat detailed. If it's an FBI situation, it comes from another state. The different states do things differently. So that information, we'll have all the information, but we may not have the next part of it.
I understand. It's just when we check criminal histories, we got to go courthouse to courthouse. I just wanted to double check that you guys actually had access. It sounds like you have access to a rap sheet, basically.
Right. So we'll get the rap sheet, and if we need to, upon the denial, we'll order court docs from the actual court.
Okay. Are you? The reason I'm asking: are you guys following SB 731, which could limit public access or any access to criminal files if someone's been clean for 2 years? They'll basically shut down that file. Keep an eye on that for your own benefit, I think.
Okay. Thanks for the information. Do you have any other questions? And if not, I'll move on.
So Sam, basically in a nutshell, it's a little bit subjective, for your team's review. The reason why we've been beating the drum on this is just because the biggest questions we get are, a lot of our future applicants want some type of guardrails. If I have this type of previous conviction in my past, what does that mean? And before, it was a lot easier to kind of at least somewhat throw those guardrails up. But now it sounds like there's really not much I can direct anybody as far as that's concerned. Right.
Well, in all honesty, Brian, here's what I would tell you. We have people that have been convicted of murder who get denied, go to the DRC, and are issued a license. Generally speaking, those individuals articulate very well at DRC. They can explain their situation. And we're not talking somebody who killed somebody 5 years ago, but somebody that maybe has that, further back in their background. So with the presence of the DRC and the accessibility that they have, I would rather deny just out of an abundance of caution and let them go plead their case in front of that committee and let that committee issue the license. Having that, I think definitely is one of those things where, sure, you have, criminal history, you maybe even have something, major, apply anyway. I wish I could say, oh, well, automatically, if somebody has, these types of felonies, we will deny them. In some cases, yeah, maybe we will, but they can still go to DRC and get a license.
And just to confirm that on the application, question 10 in regards to previous convictions, that's been scrubbed out, right? Or is that still on? I can't remember. Or I haven't seen the app on Breeze recently. I don't know if that's been taken off or not.
Hey, Antoine, was it removed from the ACE app? I think it was.
I think so too, but I just wanted to confirm for the record.
The conviction questions?
Yeah.
Right. Question 10.
Conviction questions? Yes, I am pretty sure they were, and I'm checking on it right now. Where are you? there was only one license type that was actually kept in there. Why is it not showing here?
I think that was the repossession employee, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was removed from the ACE application. Wait, let me see. Wait, actually, no, not for the ACE. It was kept on there, but it was made optional. And this had to do. I forgot all the details right now because this has been so long. But
It had to do with the temps,
the law
right?
was.
Generally speaking, for an ACE to work on a temp, they're supposed to have no criminal history. So they should be disclosing that on the application. Because of the parameters AB 2138 put in, coupled with other bills in the ban the box movement, we were told we could not require it anymore on applications. But in your cases, because they have the temp, they do need that question somewhere needs to be present, so to speak.
Yeah. But it's marked as optional, so we're still not taking it into account necessarily, like, because back in the day, if they did not answer it, they would be denied or they wouldn't be issued a permit. Now it's optional, so.
But if they choose not to answer that question, are they still provisionally licensed, or they have to answer no, and then only then would they be provisionally licensed?
I think, in all honesty, with that situation, the law says that if they have that conviction, they should not be issued a temporary. So the only one that should have a temporary is the one who answered the question, no, I've never been convicted of a crime, and who hasn't been convicted of a crime. And it used to be, if that was the case, they check, no, they've never been convicted, they apply, we get the background, and they do have convictions, we're not only going to deny them, but we're also going to plead on our pleading that they also are denied because they lied on the app. So a lot of that has been, stripped away now with what we can and cannot do. So in those instances, with the questions optional, they don't have to answer. You look at what the true intent of both, repossessors and alarm employees working on temps, they're supposed to have no criminal history in order to do that. So for your case as the employer, that's I would say, somewhat fall on you because you're going to be hiring them before we complete our review of that applicant. If that makes sense.
But it's basically on the honor system. I'm just trying to think, like, as we're reviewing the application for submission through Breeze, if they don't have an answer on there, then we have to assume that that they're implying that they don't have a conviction.
I mean, you may want to ask that question. Yeah. It's a really weird gray area right now.
Okay.
I mean, but Sam, just to jump in here, we still run their fingerprints and we still get their criminal history. So it's not like we don't, oh, okay, we don't take their word for it. Like, we still submit all their fingerprints and we still get all their records.
Correct, but prior to that, they're, quote, working on a temp for the company. Because once that application is submitted, they're eligible to work if they have no criminal history. So we don't have control at that point because we haven't even started processing the app, nor have we received their background information.
And this is Gloriella. I want to say that the average for alarm company employees, just the regular licensure, it takes an average of 35 days.
Through Breeze? You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. This is comprehensive, so it paper and online.
Oh. And Sam, just one more thing to tie this off. So if you have an applicant that optionally answers that they don't have prior convictions, and it turns out that they do have a prior conviction that's pertinent, would they be denied, or that's not allowed anymore, correct?
It wouldn't be a direct cause for denial. If there is a conviction that is a deniable offense, then that would be, but we couldn't just deny them for that because at that point the question is optional.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sam, I have a
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Okay. I have a question. Do you guys do extensive or how extensive background checks do you do on people coming from another country, say like Australia?
I mean, over and above, I mean, our parameters are limited to what we receive from California Department of Justice and FBI. So that's the only information we have. We are not authorized to go seek, any sort of international background or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But if you have information on somebody, feel free to send that in to me.
Yeah, I sent information on an individual initially, and we didn't do much on. I went to a hearing on this injury lawsuit case, which the company had decided to settle out of court, and apparently this individual came from Australia. Within a year, he was able to get a firearm permit from here. But I have kind of doubts and questions about this individual, which I also recently found his firearms application, which he lied on, which he claimed that he was a firearm instructor here, and he wasn't. So, which I'm going to bring up to you. I'll send you information on that.
Yeah, definitely. I have a general idea of what you're talking about. So definitely, let's chat at another time.
Okay, will do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on our review process? Right. And we can scroll down to, we can quickly touch on our case management unit. So case management, they handle all of our cases that are referred to the Attorney General's office for various types of formal discipline or appeals. They also serve as probation monitors if a license is put on probation. So they work these cases start to finish. Right now, we have over 400 cases pending at the Attorney General's office, and I have 4 case management analysts. I'm actually down to 3 right now. We're just getting ready to backfill due to retirement. So that is a lot of cases, and most of them are the firearm assessment appeals. So individuals who failed the assessment, they were denied a firearms permit, and now they're appealing that denial to the Attorney General's office. Those cases are just, there's so many of them that it's really it's killing our budget, one, but it's also taking over a lot of the time that the Deputy Attorney Generals have to work our cases. So, you look at the discussion point where it talks about how does this impact all licensees? To be perfectly honest with you, we've been very, very, very selective over what gets sent to the Attorney General's office for general enforcement. There are, instances where we're issuing more citations on stuff that normally we'd probably be more inclined to file an accusation to revoke the license. So our goal is, with some, pending legislation, with changes coming down the works to where these appeals won't be so cumbersome, we'll actually be able to utilize the Attorney General's office for enforcement. I'm kind of excited about that because we know we have some actors out there that need to be revoked. And so being able to free up some of that, we can actually be more enforcement oriented with our cases that go to the Attorney General's office. So any questions on that?
Sam, is that on the website as far as enforcement activity?
What do you mean?
Just because, one of the big things that our members are very interested in is knowing that the Bureau is enforcing unlicensed activity. So it's kind of that, reward for them being compliant.
So one of the things that's next on the to-do list, I've had some chats with Antoine about it, and we're working on putting up a list, either monthly or weekly, or however we're going to do it, of all the unlicensed activity citations that have been issued. Because you're right, I can't tell you 40% of the citations we issued this fiscal year were for unlicensed activity, but you guys don't know that because you don't see it. So we want to make sure we can get that out there, get it published, have that available, so that people know, who's getting cited. So we're definitely working on that one. Any other questions? All right, if we can just take a quick stroll through complaint resolution. Our complaint resolution unit, they handle intake, and they also do the initial resolution activities on consumer complaints. Not all complaints can be resolved. Not all of them can be mediated, but they try their best. A lot of our complaint resolution analysts, they have good rapport with different companies because they've, worked different complaints. And it's interesting, kind of to give you an idea of where we're at right now. Our complaint resolution manager has been doing complaint resolution for DCA for nearly 30 years. And she said right now it is the craziest it has ever been, and she's ever seen it in all of her years, which is the level of complaints, the weird level of complaints. It started with, a lot of, complaints from homeless population and advocates about, security infringing on their perceived rights. And then now, with COVID, you've got complaints about, guards and masks. And it's just the level of complaint, and also sometimes the level of behavior of the complainants has been really challenging, I would say, especially in the last couple of years. It's really started to grow. So, our staff, they're really good. They're really patient. There are instances where, I have to get involved, or Lynn has to get involved with, complainants who just refuse to accept that, their complaint can't resolve in something that they wanted. So, that's definitely been, a challenge, but we're working through it. At some point you think you've seen it all, and then something else comes in, and it's like, wow, that's a good one. So, complaint resolution, they're doing good work. Our enforcement unit, I shared with you before that we were in the process of onboarding our special investigator. He started at the end of April. And since he's been on board, he's already jumped in. He's been working with local law enforcement. He's been working with cannabis control. He's already participated in, warrant, service of warrant, also different sting ops. So he's out in the field. He's done great work. So far, we're really seeing, the potential with having a special investigator, and we're hoping to be able to reclassify future positions so we can get a couple more special investigators in the field. I shared with you already, 40% of the citations have been unlicensed activity. And we are going to get that up and going as soon as we can. Our enforcement staff have, they continue to do inspections throughout, the COVID pandemic and everything that was going on. Different hybrid inspections. They were out in the field as well. So they continue that program. And one thing I'm really proud of with our enforcement folks, every quarter, every year, we check our time frames and how well are we doing? Are we meeting our performance measures? Are we sticking to our goals? And enforcement consistently over the last couple of years has reduced their investigation cycle time. So the number of days it takes them to complete their investigation. And just looking at last year to this year, last year, the average number of days from the start of the investigation until it's closed was 111 days, which that is really good considering their target to me is less than 120 days. Now this fiscal year, they've gotten that down to 79 days. They're getting these complaints, they're being able to work them and actually closing them out in that time frame, and it's really nice to see, and I'm really happy about it. So I had to brag about it a little bit. Any questions on enforcement?
Sam, can you give an example of non-jurisdictional complaints?
Yeah, so we get, some people think that we oversee collection agencies, or that we are an investigative body that can go investigate their spouse, or, you know, I got really bad customer service. So non-jurisdictional for us are the complaints that aren't something we're going to do. But the reality is we are mandated under law to, at the very minimum, respond to a complainant and try to provide them a direction to go with their complaint. So if they file a complaint with us and we say that's non-jurisdictional for us, but here's Better Business Bureau, or here's, you know, Department of Business Oversight, or you can go, you know, this realm, we'll do that. So we still capture that as workload because our intake staff are still responding to those.
All
Anybody else?
right. Thanks, Sam. Do we have any advisory committee members who have any questions or comments for Sam?
I just had a question. Sam, how are the complaints typically received? Are they phone call or online inquiries?
Majority of them are online, so you can log into Breeze. Actually, you don't have to log in. You can just go to the Breeze website. You can submit complaints online. You know, if we do get phone calls, we usually ask people to provide us their complaint in writing, and we do get them sent in through the mail as well. So some complaints will even be initiated by us. When we have information, we'll initiate our own complaints.
Hey, Lynn and Sam, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. Sam, great job as always. Lynn, I've got to catch a flight, but what I'm going to do is I've logged in on my phone. So I'm going to log off a video and I'll be listening in, and hopefully I can still comment when I'm on the road, if that's okay.
Yep, totally fine.
All right, thanks,
Safe
guys.
travels, Frank.
I'll rejoin you in a few minutes. Thank you.
And then, Darren, I just wanted to hop in too. If you go to our website, which I like to plug as often as possible, there is a place where you can, enforcement is right on the front page there, and you can submit. You don't have to go through the Breeze website. You can also go on our website and submit a complaint that way.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't look like any other advisory committee members have any questions or comments. So moderator, I'd like to open it up for public questions or comments on this agenda item, please.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type "I would like to comment." I will now pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. We have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Feature has been closed.
All right. Thank you. Moving right along to agenda item number 8. This is an update on legislation, also regulations, and I'm also throwing in budget and administrative issues as well on this agenda item, and I will, for the most part, be the one presenting this. So very briefly, moderator, do you mind switching back to the handout? That one has a little more detail, and there are a couple of items I want to cover before we go into, there we go, thank you. Okay, now I'm just going to speak in a general sense on staffing. We have 72.4 permanent full-time positions in addition to any temporary staff. The Bureau is at an 8% vacancy rate, which I believe is the lowest since I started about 2.5 years ago. The licensing unit recently backfilled our company desk staff services manager 1 position, and So it's one of the reasons why we are able to be as quick as we are on our processing times, is because we are almost fully staffed in licensing, which is a luxury, honestly. We haven't had that very often. Our budget update, it's pretty grim, not gonna lie. We have been just eviscerated by the assessment, the firearms assessment. And to those of you who don't know what that is, if you're a security guard and you want a firearms permit, you must go through the firearms assessment. It is a test given by a vendor, PSI, and it assesses your judgment, restraint, and self-control at the time of the test in order to clear you for carrying a firearm on duty. We have approximately an 85 more or less percent passage rate, but that also means that 15% of applicants do fail. And when somebody tells you you are not judged to be capable of carrying a firearm on duty, people take that seriously. They take it personally, they take it seriously. So we have an incredibly high number of appeals on this. Each appeal costs us on the low end $3,000, on the high end $7,000. Right now we have, I believe, over 500 appeals at the Attorney General's office. They automatically go to the AG's office. We don't have them go through DRC. That's the way the legislation was written several years ago. And so because of our astronomically high escalation of AG costs and the associated Office of Administrative Hearings, in 2 budget years, we are projected to go in the red. So I wanted to let the advisory committee members know specifically what that means. And if you look at the table 1 that is up on the screen right now, you can see that fiscal year 23-24, we will be in the red, starting off the fiscal year and ending the fiscal year really in the red. However, there's good news, which I will get to. So FYI, one of the things that we have been told by our legislative team and our executive team over at DCA is fee increases, which would be the natural go-to on this, are very hard, if not impossible, to get through the legislature right now. So we have some wiggle room in how we have structured our fees. We got permission for a range of fees some time ago, and we are not at the top of that range. So that is something that we have in our pocket. But we are hopeful, like I said, and that's legislation moving through that will hopefully be able to address this concern. So I'll get to that in a minute. We were also required last year by the governor's office to implement a 5% budget reduction when we thought there was going to be a budget shortfall. So we managed to do that. We got $73,000 in reduction, but then alternately, we also needed a budget augmentation letter. And we got that through the legislature in the amount of approximately $800,000, and that was a direct result of the assessment. So we got that approved. So, you know, we are in good shape this year and next year. And the legislation that I'm really pinning a lot of my hopes on is SB 607, which is run by Senator Roth. He is the chair of the Senate Business and Professions Committee. SB 607 is sort of a catch-all bill. It has a lot of technical fixes for any number of DCA boards and bureaus, including BSIS. What it will do is it will change the assessment from something that an applicant takes after they submit an application and we clear them to take the assessment. That's the process now. You submit, you know, your firearms application, we get it, we get your money. By the way, in order to submit your firearms application, you have to go through a training course, which can be pricey. So you go through the training course, you submit your firearms application, and then we clear you to take the assessment. So if you fail the assessment, you're already in for several $100s, you know, if not more. And that is another motivator for people to appeal, is they've already invested a lot of money, and our security guard and firearms applicants aren't really well off usually as a whole. So it's an expensive undertaking for them. And then if they get turned down, you know, it's sort of adding insult to injury. So what SB 607 does is it says, before you even take this firearms training course or apply to the Bureau, take the assessment first. And so that way it cuts out us from it. It almost becomes an entrance exam type thing. And you can keep taking the assessment now twice a year. Currently it's once a year. If you fail it, you have to wait 12 months to take it again. SB 607 says you can take it up to 2 times a year. We don't like we don't like them taking it any more often because it compromises the integrity of the exam. You don't want people going in often enough where they can then start gaming their answers. So you can take the exam twice a year, and then once you pass it, then, hey, go and take your firearms course, then apply for a firearms application with us. So SB 607 has unanimous support. We anticipate it getting signed into law. And if it is signed into law, it will go into effect January 1, 2022. So our hope is that at that point, our AG cases will retreat back down to their historically normal level. And we won't have, you know, the $2 million increase in our budget that we have had over the last several years. So fingers crossed, and, you know, stay tuned. We will send out updates as they become available on this, because we will be celebrating if that bill goes into effect. Okay, so I know, Darren, I want to thank you for, Darren was incredibly diligent and went through and looked at what the licensing fees were for nearby states, West Coast states. And, you know, we are low. We are on the very lower end of what we charge, especially, you know, some of our company licenses. And so, you know, that was very helpful to take a look at what other states do. So really appreciate that. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that particular issue or budget issue?
Just that I'm curious to know why California would be the lowest in all of the western states, save Idaho, which has no fee. And is there an opportunity to have the legislature review that? Simply because our volume is so high, it doesn't mean that we would necessarily be the lowest, or should be, but because of the volume, our costs are significantly higher. And without really review of the fee structure, I think we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage, especially when you consider the new use of force legislation, which would then require an assessment of any applicant, I would think, simply because you'd want to understand one's predisposition to aberrant behavior. But, you know, just some thoughts in that regard.
No, actually, you know, from your mouth to God's ear, Darren, that is something that I have wondered myself. It is a process to get a fee increase. It is not sort of like, hey, we're going to go and submit a request to the legislature or try and run a bill. It is, you have to contract out for an audit. So then you have auditors come in and look at your books. And these auditors have an outsized authority to say what you want is unreasonable. You know, this is what we will put in your audit request. All of these requirements are part of what you need to submit as the parcel to the or package to the legislature when you request a fee increase. The legislature historically is really anti-fee increase, especially for professions like security guards, which again historically are not really, they are seen as more disenfranchised than some other licensees. So the argument is made usually that any fee increase represents a hardship. So yeah, so we are really constrained by the process, and we have stakeholders, you know, our security guard folks who have said, hey, you know, we understand the need for higher fees and that's something we support. And if it was that easy, I think we would be singing a different tune. But because there are so many hoops we have to jump through, it does keep the fees artificially low, in my opinion. That's my opinion. So, you know, that is something that we have to look at. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments on that?
Chief, do you mind sharing the new employee that's going to be working the company desk?
Oh, sure. Yeah, her name is Sheila Keachel. She's fabulous. She was promoted from within that unit to the SSM1 position, so she hit the ground running last week.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, moderator, if you want to scroll down to the next page, please. All right, so the big daddy of bills here right now, as we went over the last advisory committee meeting, is the Holden bill. We took the concerns that were raised last time, we took them back to the assembly member's office. It's been amended several times. And right now, what's changed is the amount of training for powers to arrest went from 10 hours, which is what we had in the original version, or what the assembly member had, back down to 8 hours. This would be effective January 1st, 2023. As in the previous version of the bill, we are mandated to form a stakeholder group to work with POST. It's a Peace Officer Standards and Training entity. That's a state organization, and we've already reached out to them, and they are happy to work with us on a course outline and requirements. And that's sort of where we're going to roll up our sleeves, and the rubber's going to meet the road on what exactly do we mean by appropriate use of force. What do we mean by incorporating best practices? You know, making sure that we address things like implicit bias, you know, use of force, what not to do in an arrest, that sort of things. So that we have a year before this goes into effect. And during that year, so this will be over the fall and spring of next year, we're going to send out solicitations for this stakeholder group and appoint members to it, work with POST, and wrestle into some semblance of shape curriculum that we will then roll out to our training facilities, our approved training facilities. AB 229 also clarifies that an armed security guard must be an employee of a private patrol operator, an employee of the state or political subdivision thereof. That is effective January 1, 2022. So Darren, I know you had some discussions and questions about this last time. So we just wanted to let you know that that language is in there.
Was there clear?
Sorry, go ahead, Darren.
I'm sorry. Was there clear definition about what constitutes armed?
That's a good question. Let me look at that and get back to you.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, so let me look that up and look, because I think it was just amended 2 days ago again, and I'm not quite sure what clarifications or changes they made in this latest version. The other provision in there that is causing a lot of heartburn with our security guard folks is it requires PPOs to submit a written report describing the circumstances of the discharge of any firearm, which is required now, or any altercation, physical altercation, as specified. And this altercation, it could be, you know, wrestling somebody to the ground. It could be, you know, tackling somebody, that sort of thing. We don't receive a lot of these reports, and we're not sure why, because anecdotally and through the media, we see that there are a lot of physical altercations with security guards, and we want to have a more robust reporting system in place so that we can start to see patterns and evaluate where we might need to make corrections or improve our training. So that new and beefed up reporting requirement is going to go into effect January 1st, 2022. Darren, I just got clarification from our legislative employee, and she said that armed in the bill is defined as armed with a firearm or baton. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, the bill also raises the fine amount for violations of this particular code. This is the written report. If you don't submit a written report in a timely fashion, it moves it from 1,000 to 2,500 for first violation, and subsequent violations up to $5,000. And this also authorizes rather than requires PPOs to provide a copy of their powers to arrest training manual to their employees. This was in place, if anybody has any questions, because it gets updated every so often, and we had PPOs ask us if they could just have it online and give their employees a link to access this online, and we said, yeah, everything is moving to online and it's easier to update. So we don't have a problem with what Assemblymember Holden wanted to do with that. All right. Does anybody have, I'm going to stop for any discussion on AB 229 right now. Mr. Farnby, I see that you are unmuted. Did you have a question or a comment?
I do. I have several, but I'll just try to
Okay.
keep the pertinent ones to this conversation. Just so I'm clear, I'm somewhat familiar with 229. This is just subject to
Anton, I don't know. Is anybody else having trouble hearing him? Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't hear him.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you're freezing up a little. Anton, do you want to try and, because you're still a little frozen and I can't hear you. Okay. All right. Let's move to Stan. I see that you are unmuted, and then we'll go back to Anton. It looks like he might try to be logging out and back in again.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was going to ask. My question is,
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I'll wait for Anton to finish. Or not.
Anton, we hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut anyone off. I thought, were you talking, Stan?
No, go ahead and finish. I'll go after you. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I have a spotty connection, everyone. Sorry about that, Chief. My question was around AB 229. Does this only apply to private security firms for the PPO, or does this include public?
When you say public, what do you mean?
Meaning sworn officers, like, county police, state police, municipal, or is it only applies to the privatized industry?
This is just applying to BSIS licensed guards.
BSIS licensed only. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm sorry, I didn't catch I thought you mentioned something around the fines for the failure of reporting. You had mentioned like it would be from 1,000 to 2,500 if the reporting wasn't done timely or properly. And then I think you mentioned an amount after that.
Yes. So the 1,000 to 2,500 is for your first violation of reporting in a timely fashion. Second and beyond moves up from 2,500, I believe it is right now, to 5,000.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And my last question was around the stakeholder group. I think you had mentioned a specific group that we're going to be working with on the courses.
Yes, in the bill, there's language directing BSIS to form a stakeholder group along with POST to formulate the curriculum and standards that will get rolled out on the use of force.
Okay. Is there a timeline on that?
Well, we need to have everything in place by January 1, 2023 on this. So working backwards from that, we've already reached out to POST, and in our sort of internal discussions and timelines, we are going to be getting something together. We assume this bill will be signed. So we're going to try and get something together and start really kind of gathering our resources and figuring out our next steps. Next month or September is what we're going to do our next big push. This is going to be a big undertaking.
Yeah. It sounds like it, which is why I'm sorry. Hence the questions that I have. And I'm sorry, team. Just one last question. Regarding the bill and how it impacts our, this entity. Are you aware, or anyone for that matter is aware of any any kind of steps or conversations that took place for any concerns that led to this bill? And I guess that's an open question, not necessarily for you, Chief, but for anyone. I mean, obviously, legislation is put in place to resolve an issue, I would think, right? And so I didn't know if there was anyone here or any of the organizations you represent that had any previous conversations that led to the creation of this legislation.
Well, I think so. I can't answer for Assemblymember Holden's office, but I can tell you that I have tuned into all of the hearings that he has had on this bill. And the one event that he mentions consistently is at the Golden One Center in Sacramento here. I believe in 2019, there were guards who detained a trespasser, and unfortunately, the trespasser subsequently passed away. So that is an event that he mentions in all of his statements on this. So I would imagine that probably has something to do with it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chief. And I'm very familiar with that situation. Actually, it was more than one. But thank you so much, and thanks everyone for your patience and allowing me to get my questions in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And Stan, I'm sorry, did you have any questions?
Yeah,
I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you. First, back to Anton, reporting requirements, although this particular legislation addresses.
Hey, Stan, I'm so sorry. I can barely hear you. I don't know if anybody else is having trouble hearing him. Okay, you're real soft.
Okay, how about now? Better. Okay, thanks. To Anton's question about the applicability of this legislation, it being just to private security, and whether local law enforcement has a similar requirement. And as some of you probably already know, if not all of you, in my previous profession in law enforcement, there's extensive reporting requirements whenever there is use of force, both at a state level and at a federal level, so that the FBI can compile those statistics. Along those same lines, following my retirement with law enforcement, I joined a private security firm, and we unfortunately had 5 accidental shootings. I searched and searched looking for formats, other data that I compared to, so that we made sure we conducted a thorough investigation, and we came up with solid training points for our own organization and hopefully benefit the rest of the state or the industry. So I wonder, in this legislation, and as BSIS is concerned, are you considering, or do you already have a format that every private security firm will be required to follow? One, so you get same sort of data, and then 2, that you can potentially turn it around as a training tool for the rest of us to benefit.
I'm going to throw that over to Sam, since it's his department that gets all of these incident reports. I do know that we have it on our website. It's a form that you fill out. but we also, like, sometimes I have folks email me directly, but Sam, do you have any insight on that one?
Can you hear me? Okay. So currently we have a reporting form on our website for people to report firearm discharges as well as incident reports, or anything that's required to be reported. So I think looking at the 229 legislation and looking at how that gets implemented, obviously we'll be updating our stuff as well as things move forward. So I think in this instance, I mean, so Stan, just let me fully understand what was your question specifically.
Yeah, as far as the reporting requirement goes, the form that you referred to, and I apologize, it's been years since I looked at it or I dealt with an accidental firearm discharge in private security. But there are certain bits of information that are helpful to the industry as a whole that might help us following an investigation. For example, did the incident occur at a clearing tube, if a clearing tube was available? Did it occur at a site? Was it part of, as a result of training, for example? Some of those kind of pieces of information are helpful in then shaping the training for not only that particular private security agency, but the industry as a whole, if you're able to turn it around later in an annual report of use of force or accidental discharges or intentional discharges that have gone wrong.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I know right now, they vary. Most of the details on a firearm discharge, they're going to be within a narrative that's provided to us. So, we would actually have to go pull all those complaints and review them. So, I think that's a really good idea, and I think it's something I could talk to my enforcement folks about. That would be beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stan. That's a good point. We do compile it, but at this point, I don't think there's any there hasn't been any sort of analysis of the information to date. So, yeah, we can do that. Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments on AB 229 from our advisory committee?
Lynn, this is Frank. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Excellent. I had some audio issues. I want to actually go back a couple of the bills to your firearms, the budgetary issues in that particular bill. I just wanted to comment before to please reach out to myself and Francie and Jerry at Cali when you need support for that bill. We'll be more than happy to do everything we can. We want to keep you guys afloat.
Thank you. I mean, we're really hopeful that once SB 607 passes, the assessment fix, as I like to call it, things will be sunny again here. But it's inevitable. At some point, we will have to look at raising fees. If not in the next several years, then certainly further on down the line. So I appreciate your offer of support. Okay.
Yeah, Chief, and this is Anton. Anything on AB 229? In my capacity, and working with the PPO licensed, security firms throughout the state, I'll be more than happy to assist in any way possible. This obviously impacts people I represent and has a lot to do with folks here, on this committee in different capacities. So anything that I can do to be helpful, I'll be more than happy to do so.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we will probably utilize you heavily. So once we start rolling out information. Okay, moderator, if you could scroll down, please. I'm going to try and go through the rest of the bills fairly quickly since they're basically ancillary. AB 484, Assemblymember Medina. Current law requires an ACO to include their name and license number in any advertisement, soliciting or advertising business. This bill, we referred to it earlier, this bill would allow an alarm company to direct potential customers to their online landing page for their name and license number for radio, television, or billboard. AB 515, Assemblymember Chen. This is a repossessor bill. Current law makes it a misdemeanor to commit a trespass by engaging in specified acts, including driving a vehicle, a repossession vehicle in this case, upon property belonging to or occupied by another, and known not to be open to the general public without consent except as specified. This bill basically carves out repossessors from that trespass provision. And they are allowed to search the property, and upon completing that search, leave the property immediately. AB 913 is another repossession bill. This bill amends the definition of deadly weapon, legal owner, several others in the Collateral Recovery Act, expands registration exemption to certain repossession agency employees, and allows repossession agencies to provide notice of seizure and inventory to the debtor via email. Currently, they have to do it to USPS mail to the last registered address that they have on file. AB 1221 by Assemblyman Flora. Current law specifies what must be included in a service contract, including the contract term. This bill specifies that a contract may be month to month or other periodic basis and continue it until canceled by the buyer or obligor, and specifies other additional information to be contained in a contract. So that would apply to our alarm folks. AB 358, also a Flora bill. This is regarding electrified security fence. There are certain technical improvements or advancements, if you want to call them that, in the field of electrified security fences. And there's been some confusion on, according to the firms who are doing this new type of fence, on how they should be regulated. Is it statewide level or is it municipal level? This bill says, you know, here's the statewide framework for you guys. This isn't necessarily BSIS. It doesn't mess around in our business and professions code, but, you know, wanted to let everybody know about this. Moving on to AB 830, this is also Assemblymember Flora, who is very busy in the alarm world this year. There are a number of provisions in this bill. This bill is sponsored by, I believe, Brian, you might want to either sponsored by or at the very least supported by the alarm industry. And this is sort of, you know, their big bill for the year. So,
yeah, sponsored by the California Alarm Association.
Yes, yes. So that's a good bill. We don't have any problem with that bill. Moderator, if you want to scroll down a little bit more. Keep going, keep going. SB 607, which is the assessment fix. Overall, it's the technical committee bill for Senate Business and Professions. This is really good bill. We're really, fingers crossed. We're looking forward to this bill getting signed. And I think that is all. Moderator, if you want to scroll down just a little bit more, I think. Oh, sorry, I lied. AB 107, Assembly Member Rudy Salas. This bill requires DCA boards and bureaus to issue a temporary license to certain applicants meeting specified requirements. So, all right, okay. So, any committee members have any questions or comments on the bills that I just covered? I know I went through them pretty quickly, but some of them are pretty narrow in scope, and I don't think I need to bend your ear for long on most of them.
Hey, Chief, I have a question on 358.
Yeah.
So the way that the electric fence basically falls into the jurisdiction of the BSIS is because it's actually connected to a monitored system, a monitored alarm system.
Yeah.
We're not going to back, the BSIS isn't then going to start including electrified fences as a alarm device, correct?
So this bill we were brought into the conversations on this bill last year because of the installation of it. That was where the maker of it, and it's like Ragnarok, I can't, it's some Thor related name of a company that they are specifically dealing with this. And the way it was presented to us is like, this is an installation issue and a municipal, like, how is this governed issue? So I can't think, Antoine, do you have any anything you want to chime in on the nexus on this? Because I know we basically said this isn't our our rodeo, so count us out.
Yeah, I think at this particular time, the way the verbiage is in the bill, it does not include an electrified fence as an alarm system. It's only when it is connected to an alarm system that company would then fall under our purview. But if you're just installing a security fence by itself, you wouldn't be required to register as an alarm company operator, if that makes sense.
So the electrified fence itself is going to be seen as an ancillary device connected to the alarm system, therefore pulling it into the BSIS's purview.
It's only if it's connected to an alarm device, yes.
Okay. The main concern with that is electrified fence is a protection system, not a detection system. So that is a cause of concern from the alarm industry, because once you start pulling in protection systems, then things get very litigious. I know if I walked up and touched a fence and got electrocuted by it, I'm going to have a lot of questions. And so I think we've talked about this, and we knew that this company, and I think it's a standalone company that was interested in this legislation. We talked about it amongst our own legislative committee, and that was kind of the concern. So I didn't know if the Bureau had kind of thought about that and had any feelings on it, or if you guys were just passively watching the bill.
So we had multiple conversations with the Contractor State Licensing Board about this, because it is an installation that we don't regulate. So at this point, we're both entities are just kind of taking a step back and taking a look at this, because this is new. So we're not quite sure of every single ramification just yet. So yeah, stay tuned.
Well, the CSLB laws state that once an installation falls under the jurisdiction of the BSIS, then you no longer have to follow the CSLB rules. And so this is where that's why a lot of the dealers that we have in our industry are dual licensed under the BSIS and the CSLB, depending on the work scope. So it kind of is presents a lot of different questions,
No, absolutely.
how that's going to work.
Yeah, there's a whole, I mean, this thing is part of a bigger thing, of a bigger trend of where do we weigh in? Do we weigh in on those I've fallen and I can't get up devices, because those are personal protection, personal alarm device? I mean, so we have we have a lot on our plate this year. So all of these things, we're just sort of saying, okay, you know what, we're going to keep an eye on them. And when we get dragged into that particular arena, we will engage. But for now, we're happy to let it play out and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm glad to take it offline too, if you want to, have a sidebar chat with the CAA, with the California Alarm Association about, the ramifications potentially of having that.
Right.
Brian and Lynn, this is Glenn Younger. Can I step in for just a quick second?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a committee at the CSLB, and this was the topic. So at this point, the CSLB is saying they have to have like many alarm installers. You have to have either a C7, a C10, or a C28 to install and hook this into a system. So it's the fact that it's going to be tied into an existing system that's going to be really the issue. And so that's where it stands now. So it may end up, falling over on the BSIS side for this. But for right now, that's where the CSLB is at, saying it looks like it falls under 3 different C categories for a contractor's license. And so they're, that's where they've left it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. It does. And, I mean, if it goes to a monitored system, I mean, the monitored system should be. You know what? I can hear my policy managers screaming in my ear to stop talking. So, I mean, not literally, but I mean, he's probably thinking that. So I better not spitball and say what I think on that. But yeah, we're monitoring that for sure.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, just like commercial fire systems that are technically fallen into that arena, it's dual licensing required. So it's just a matter of, I don't know if that's called out yet, specific to protection systems like obviously the electrified fence, but I think there's like Alon systems. I could be getting that word wrong. I know mispronouncing it, but those type of systems that are usually connected to an alarm system, but not under the jurisdiction of the BSIS, under the CSLB.
Right.
Anyway.
So one last thought on that, and that was the point on these three categories of installing it had to do with a straight fence contractor can't install an electrified fence. They have to have either C7, C10, or C28 license in order to do that, which many of the CA members are C7s or C10s or both.
But just because it's connected to an alarm system doesn't negate the requirement of them still holding that C license, correct?
Right. The C license stays in place.
Excellent. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to regulations. Moderator, if you want to scroll down a little bit. We've got some regulations that next page, maybe. Okay, well, I am going to just go ahead and without, I think the next page on the agenda has, or maybe a couple of pages down, moderator has the regulations outlined. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So the first list here, or the first item here, this is the AB 2138 criteria that Sam discussed earlier, so I don't think we need to go into that. Section 100 cleanup, this is just basically a section 100 cleanup is just technical amendments in cleanup language, like if a comma is in the wrong place, something like that. That went into effect March 2021. Let's see, badge, patch, and cap insignia criteria. We are sort of pushing pause on that currently. I know there's concern about that. We had a couple of stakeholder meetings on that, but we're still going to have more. But we push pause on that because the legislation world right now is really popping, and we only have X amount of bandwidth. So stay tuned for more information on that. The PI fee increase as a result of SB 385, that is chugging along. And firearms qualification card training is also chugging along as well. Does anybody have any specific questions on that? On any of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Could you elaborate on number 5?
Sure. Antoine, do you want to take over on that particular one?
The Bureau is, so as you all know, the firearm is a perishable skill. And right now we've had applicants that apply for a firearm permit who took their training like a year ago. And in order for you to receive a firearm permit, you have to qualify on the range twice a year, no less apart. So it doesn't make sense for us to accept the training from a year ago. And so we would like to that definition a little bit so that you are applying for a firearm permit within 6 months of you taking that training and no longer than that.
Thank you.
Any other committee members have any questions or comments on legislation or regulations? All right, seeing none. I am going to go ahead and open it up to any public comment or questions on regulations or legislation at this time.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type "I would like to comment." All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. You will be provided 4 minutes and given a 30-second warning. With that, I do have an individual identified as Leon Stroggins. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Leon Scroggins. A little background. I was a repossession agency owner for 27 years. I was a 33-year owner of a qualified manager certificate until November of 2020. And my question is on AB 913. AB 913 is a rewording of the prior legislative session's AB 2759, which was gutted and amended to just include having a license be able to an expired license to be able to be updated up to 10 years instead of 3. But all the language from 2759 was put back into AB 913. It was my understanding in the prior legislative session that BSIS went through DCA to have opposition to all that wording, especially the wordings where they removed all types of weapons and only put in the word firearm. And also the other objection would be on not having a license, this new entity called a camera car driver, because the assumption is a camera car driver never gets out of the car, which is a misconception in industry, and it's abused all the time where the camera car drivers actually participate in the repossession. So my question is, did the Bureau or DCA have any objections during this legislative session to 913?
So we have concerns. We are tasked with giving technical assistance and are not necessarily authorized to support or oppose a bill. I think it is accurate to say we have ongoing concerns with this approach, and yeah, I'll leave it at that, I guess.
So you at this point then have nothing from the actual DCA, their legislative individuals that actually do participate with the legislature itself. You're not aware of anything that they might be doing in either in favor or opposition to AB 913?
That would probably be a question best directed to DCA, but I do know that they also have expressed concerns. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, 'cause I tried the letter writing routine. I wrote, I think, in the 2 legislative sessions, about 40 different letters to both senators and to assemblymen, and didn't seem to go anywhere with the assembly people, but it did seem to go with some direction with senators that brought it to their attention. And I think that's why the previous bill, AB 2759, was gutted. But I was just concerned if because the wording is identical.
30 seconds.
Okay, just my concern is since the wording is identical, if the same objections are still standing within the format of DCA. Thank you.
Yeah, so it sounds like you are concerned about the language, Mr. Scroggins.
Yeah, I serve also as an employee of an a repossessors insurance buying group that insures repossessors all over the United States, including California. And the wording about the weapons in the vehicle being changed to just include a firearm is going to open up a lot of repossession companies, and of course, then the insurance company we represent, to lawsuits, because now a repossessor can carry a baton, they can carry a baseball bat, they can carry a knife, and none of that is now going to be considered a deadly weapon as it has in the past. So the employees I train never to have anything upon themselves or in their vehicles. You know, I train them to leave the vehicle and run like heck to get out of there if something happened. Now they can defend themselves with what would I guess you consider less than deadly weapon if it's not a firearm, and they can have that in the tow truck with them or in the.
Right, no, this is great. Mr. Scroggins, if you could email me, I'm gonna give you my email address. I would like to continue this conversation with you. My email address is Lynn, that's LYNNE .Andres, ANDRES @dca.ca.gov. And that would be, I think it'd be very helpful to get your input on this. I really appreciate you speaking up. Thank you. All right.
This is the moderator. We do have another request for public comment from Jody Ahrens. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm a private investigator. I've been waiting over 45 days for my photo ID from PSI, and they indicated that the problem was with BSIS. I don't know if this is just a comment. If we have any idea on the time frame on this, I cannot get into the county jails as a professional visit without the photo ID.
Right, no, I understand. You know what? Let me, I just gave out my email address. Did you catch that, Mr. Ahrens? Because if you can email me your details, we can follow up, you know, specifically on your license.
I unfortunately did not get the email because I didn't think I would need it, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to tune myself out too sometimes.
Yes.
All right, so it's Lynn, it's LYNNE .Andres, ANDRES
Okay.
dca.ca.gov.
Okay. And one other comment, this is goes back before I think any of you were born. The Bureau used to offer a very nice wall certificate for private investigators for optional purchase to go up on the wall. And that, I guess, is not an option now. When I got my license in the mail that I have to put up on the wall, I was really disappointed in it. We worked really hard to get a license, to get licensed, and I was wondering if that might be in the agenda to have a presentable wall certificate for licensees.
We do offer it. It might be, Antoine, is that something that they have to order specially? I mean, we do have wall certificates, and I know I've seen them, and I didn't think they went away, but when you email me, Mr. Ahrens, I will, you know, look into it, and we'll check on that and see what we have, available.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Moderator, anyone else?
No, that was our last request for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Feature has been closed.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10 regarding PI pocket cards. We've covered it, I think, here and there. So I don't know that we have much else to say. We went ahead and we started issuing them last month or earlier this month. I'm not sure. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the PI pocket cards? All right, I don't see any advisory committee members' comments or questions on that. Moderator, do we have any public comments or questions on agenda item number 10, please?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. It does appear we do have a request for public comment from Jody Ahrens. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome back. Quick question. There was some confusion in the earlier comments about the PI license that the photo ID is a requirement from BSIS, correct? It's not optional.
You mean the photo ID? Sorry, go ahead, Antoine.
Yes, that's correct. It's a requirement.
And, and you do not have to carry the little paper card, just the pocket ID is sufficient to be in compliance with the BSIS rules?
Correct. Well, you should not even be receiving the pocket card. There may be a little bit of a time period where some of the paper cards will also ship along with the photo IDs, but those will fade away eventually, and you'll only be getting the photo IDs.
All right, thank you very much. No further questions.
This is the moderator. There are no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
All right, moderator, moving on to agenda item number 11, public comment on items not on the agenda. I'd like to open that up for public comments or questions.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment for items not on the agenda, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type, "I would like to comment." All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. I will now pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
All right, we're nearing the end, guys. Lunchtime is in sight. Agenda item number 12, committee members' recommendation for future advisory committee meeting agenda items. So, advisory committee members, do you have any concerns or questions or comments about what you would like to see on future agendas for the committee?
I do.
Go ahead, Phil.
Is there any plan on any kind of training or course for security guards in regards to mass shooting awareness or preparation?
Right, yeah. Are you specifically talking about sort of the single shooter scenario type thing?
Yeah, or active shooters, they call them. Now it sounds like they're now calling it more mass shooting. Anybody involving 4 people shot or killed is known as a mass shooting, and it's becoming more prevalent now. Lately, it's happening almost every day, if not every week. Somewhere somebody's doing it. So I was wondering if there's something we could train our security guards to be aware of and how to handle it.
No, that's a great suggestion, and we have heard it in the past. I would have to. I'm not sure what the exact procedure is for getting that into the training manual, but I think with the powers to arrest when AB 229 goes through, we will be over. Oh, sorry, I just got a note. The active shooter scenario is in AB 229, so it will be part of the overhaul of the powers to arrest training. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, that sounds good. Another question I have is there any kind of a time limit on the issuance of a facility license?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because you're aware that the school I was training at, apparently they had a licensing issue because they were unlicensed under LLC and found out it should be incorporated. They've been in business for 8 years and all of a sudden got shut down because we're not able to get a license. And it's now been 8 months. We haven't received our license, training facility license yet. And they're saying, oh, it'll be another 15 more days, which will make it 9 months. So is there any kind of a limitation as to when the licensing is going to be issued? And the fact that when this occurred because of an audit by the enforcement, that they found out the license was wrong, which they should have noticed this 8 years ago when the company started. And now they're finding out, oh, you had the wrong license, so you're going to have to now reapply as a new licensee, pay another $1,000. And now we've been waiting for 8 months so far already and been out of business and losing a lot of business. And I've been losing my income as well because of this, and we're still waiting.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I know, so just sort of a little bit of a background, and then I'll kick it over to Gloriella, because she oversees the company licensing desks. In the past, we allowed certain, I mean, you know, in the 8 years ago, before my time, there was apparently permission for folks to incorporate as an LLC or limited partnership. The problem that subsequently came up as a result of that was that it shielded folks, it shielded the owners and the corporation from liability when something happened. And the business model is certainly a little bit different these days. But Phil, let me follow up with you. Rather than kick this over to folks here, let's follow up with you after the meeting today. Is it okay if I give you a call and we can talk about your specific situation? That might be better.
Yeah, appreciate that. And also, I just a recommendation in the future, you might want to maybe check other security schools, find out any of them still under LLC before it gets way too long like we did, we found out. And because there's also another school said that they were caught under that as well, but they got their renewal within 3 to 4 months, and here we're still waiting 8 months. So to avoid future problems with other schools coming under this audit and finding out, oh, they're not under that either, and they have to now reapply again. I just wanted to make sure that somebody looks into this thing and maybe correct it before it gets out of hand again.
Right. No, thank you for that. Will do.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any other advisory committee members have any recommendations for future advisory committee agenda items?
Lynn, I hope you can hear me. I'm in the middle of the airport. Real quick, let's just keep the PI identification card on the next agenda just to kind of track how it's going, please.
Okay, will do. All right, I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. So I want to thank everybody for participating. This was a good meeting and got a lot of good information out there, and we got a lot of good information to us. So Phil will follow up with you shortly, probably a little bit later this afternoon, give everybody a chance to grab some lunch. And thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a
Take
good
care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks very much, all. See you next time.
Thank you, Len.